Hey guys, welcome back to Panic Button Podcast, where we talk about mental health, how we get through it, why we get through it, all the things. I don't even know why I say it anymore. You guys already know when you click on the link that it's me and what we're doing, but I guess I'll be here to entertain and keep reading the spiel. But depending where you've listened and how far you've caught up, on my last couple of episodes, I did mention that my mental health journey kind of took a little bit of a different route lately. For those that have followed my journey itself, I changed medication a couple of months ago for my anxiety and my panic disorder. And since then, I've had to up my dose 2 times, and I actually just did it now a third. So that's been a little tricky because every time you end up upping the dose, you kind of experience some side effects and some unpleasant symptoms, or side effects, not really symptoms. I don't know. But it's not ideal because it feels like every dose you've gone up, you've made so much progress. But then when you have that period of like your body acclimating to the higher dose, you're kind of like wonky again. So it's kind of like I've been in just like a weird headspace where I'm like, it'll get better, it'll go away. It's just me acclimating again. But that's definitely tough. And I think that that's something a lot of people go through. And it's definitely not talked about a lot. And doctors don't tend to inform you of the ugliness that can come with just changing medication and or upping the dose of medication. So definitely like to open the conversation to that and what you guys think, and if you've experienced some of the same things. And really just you need to stay informed. I know that they say Google is a terrible thing and we shouldn't Google our symptoms or anything like that. I mean, Google has pronounced me dead basically a million times by now. But you need to stay informed and educated on these things because we do have the resources and we do have people that have gone through similar situations. So please, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me directly through my Instagram. But yeah, rant over with that medication. We do it, but it is what it is. I'm not pro medication and I'm not, con medication. It's just we're doing it. It's what's needed, and that's how we're going to get through right now. But without further ado, I do have another special guest, and this is actually episode 20 of Panic Button Podcast, which is super exciting. This guest, her name is Katrina Brees, and she is an artist, activist, and Mardi Gras parade producer from New Orleans. In 2018, Katrina lost her mother to an impulsive gun suicide. And their family has done everything to protect Donna, who was experiencing psychosis brought on by bipolar disorder. Donna and her care team had been working together daily to safely navigate her suicidality. One June morning, Donna Googled nearby gun stores on her phone and slipped out the door. Despite several recent inpatient stays at the psychiatric hospital, she was able to legally purchase a gun and bullet in minutes. Since her death, Katrina has advocated to prevent this tragedy from happening to other families through Donna's Law. A voluntary do not sell list could have saved Donna from the impulsive, deadly purchase. Katrina's advocacy has brought her to many state capitals and Congress to raise awareness for this life-saving tool. Katrina hopes to be a role model to other citizens to follow their passion, raise their voice, and be a changemaker for good. So without further ado, Katrina, are you here with us?
I am. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, that was a mouthful. I forgot how to speak today, but super excited to have you on here and just really getting the opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm excited to share my journey of advocacy and teach people how to use this new tool to protect themselves.
Definitely. And I did mention that when just reading your bio. So if you want to kick it off and tell us a little bit more about that backstory.
So my mom suffered from a lot of different mental health issues, and she was diagnosed bipolar, and she was having a reaction to down dosing Effexor at the time, and it was extreme, the side effects that she was having from this medication. it was what's sometimes called a mixed state. It was also being not managed well. I think that many people with mental health issues will understand, like, where do the problems with the medication begin and end, and where does the problems with our mental health begin and end. And
And that's crazy that that was kind of like my opening right now. And I didn't even know that that's where this was going, where I'm kind of having like a little bit of medication transition and whatnot.
yeah, and so it impacted her. She had extreme side effects. Like I said, she pretty much had a panic attack that was going on for months. She didn't sleep really at all. She pretty much had insomnia for about 2 months. Her boyfriend quit his job so that he could stay home with her. It was pretty bad. She could barely walk. It was having all these
Oh
physical
boy.
side effects on her. She had extreme tremors, like she couldn't eat with a fork because she would stab her face, and she couldn't hold a pen. And it was very physical as well as mental. And during that time, she had the highly rated psychiatric team, the best that we could, the best that is available here. And we thought we were doing everything that we could. And the day she slipped out, her partner called the police 5 times to um, prevent her suicide. And even though the police were being contacted and we knew what was happening, you could not prevent someone from buying a gun in that moment in Louisiana. And so she purchased a handgun, and I'm pretty sure that she chose that handgun because of a movie that she had just seen with her boyfriend. And she was pink washed into buying a box of like pink ribbon breast cancer bullets, which really upsets me. And she took these purchases to Audubon Park here in New Orleans, and near the Tree of Life, she shot herself in the head and died, and was later found by park employees, and our family was notified. Um, Immediately after, I knew that, like, in my head, I was like, wait, but she was just in the psychiatric ward. How could she have purchased a gun? I thought people who were in psychiatric wards, had a barrier to that.
Right.
And I actually called a family friend that's an attorney and a gun enthusiast here, and I asked him about that, and he said no, because your mother was voluntarily committed, that didn't apply. And he did tell me that she probably signed like a release at the gun store that said that she wasn't going to kill herself, which I find pretty ridiculous. And then and I also, because of these tremors, her and the state she was in and barely being able to walk, the idea of her being in a gun store and a gun dealer just handing off a gun to her when she has such bad tremors that she can't hold a fork seemed really shocking.
Right.
And so once I realized that, because she had voluntarily put herself into what she called jail, and given up all her freedoms there, including being away from her partner, being away from her home, not having cigarettes, not having other vices and joys in her life. And she was really into her four cats. And so, being away from them and not having her phone and being locked up as the method to prevent suicide, but then having such easy access to a gun. And where I live in New Orleans, um, there's like pretty much no barrier to how you can buy and sell guns. Like, you can come to my house and I can hand you a gun, and now it's your gun, and you don't need a permit
Really?
or
It's interesting.
anything. Like, yeah, it's just pretty much wide open, like as if we're, I mean, we don't even need receipts. So,
Right, there's almost no proof of anything. Sounds
yeah,
like there's a lot of issues that could arise from that.
yeah. Um, but she did purchase from a store that was a licensed gun dealer, and they did run a background check on her, and she came out clear, and then was able to purchase this gun. And I just as immediately was like, why would someone who was such a good self advocate not be given a tool that we know as a country saves lives? And that's why we still have that in place for people. And I run a dance troupe in New Orleans called the Bearded Oysters, and I had a dancer in my group named Victoria Coy, and she had just been appointed to be a director of gun violence prevention for Amnesty International. And so I called her up and I explained to her what happened. And, she said, it would have been great if your mother could have essentially flagged herself without criminalizing herself. And, that would have saved her. And we started researching about other things in law that are similar. Like, for example, there is a gambling prohibition that's voluntary that someone could put upon themselves in all 50 states that for, let's say, people maybe even with bipolar or people who have problems with gambling or compulsive behaviors can opt out of their ability to enter a casino or to receive their winnings, depending on the state. We see things like advanced directives for how we want our bodies to be treated in the future. So we are pretty aware as a society that putting barriers to oneself can help, especially since we all share this world that isn't puppy proofed for everybody.
Right?
So Donna's Law enables people to opt out of their ability to purchase a gun. It's currently enacted in Washington State, Virginia, and Utah. And it was originally conceived by a law professor named Fred Vars, who has bipolar and really saw the need. He lives in Alabama, which is a place that also doesn't have any guardrails to purchasing guns. So he started writing this out, and very quickly, him and I became friends and partners on this. And we've been working now. I've been working on it for close to 6 years, and he's probably about 10 years now on this. And we currently have bills in dozens of states. And last week, there were bills in Louisiana, California, and Delaware. I would not be surprised if it passes very soon in Delaware. We look forward to bringing it into as a federal law so that we don't have to do every single state by
Right?
itself. But also because
Sure.
a lot of states are pretty small and those state borders are close by, and so if one state has it and the next state doesn't, then someone could very easily just drive across a state line. So we want to enable people to protect themselves. Um, it's also reversible. So if someone feels that they no longer want to be on that list, they can just fill out a form and submit it, and it um, sort of dissolves what they have signed up for. And there's a waiting period connected with that. And in some states, when you sign up, you even have the option to put some email addresses on it. So if you come off, those people could be notified. So,
Oh,
for
wow.
example,
Okay.
it could be like your psychiatrist or your partner or someone you hate,
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's beneficial and that's smart. That's really
Yeah,
thinking outside the box and protecting yourself.
yeah. And also, actually, most mass shootings are family annihilations, which take place when typically the father of the family uses a gun to kill his entire family and then typically
Right.
himself. And a lot of these people that do these things know that they're capable of that. They know that they're having these ideas. Um, it is often done in psychosis. I I mean, it breaks my heart to just think of like some dad out there that just accidentally annihilated his family and is like
Right.
standing in a living room full of blood because there was no waiting period for him to buy that gun.
Sure.
And so I hope that Donna's Law can be used uh, even more than just to prevent suicide, but there are a lot of people out there that have reasons that they would consider themselves safer with a gun. I mean, statistically, almost all of us are safer without a gun, unless someone has a lot of training, like military or something like that. So being able to opt out of purchasing a gun really can prevent a lot of suicides. There's over 100 people signed up for it in Washington State right now, and that are utilizing that tool and really found it themselves because there is no Department of Health distributing this information to doctors to then distribute to their patients. This is kind of word of mouth right now,
Sure.
right from my mouth. Um, so, and then in Virginia, people are utilizing it, and Utah, and it's really working. About 10% of suicides by gun are done with a firearm that was purchased or acquired within that day, and
Wow, I
so
didn't know that.
that's a huge amount. And I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many suicides that are impulsive, and like people have this image of that suicide is caused by bipolar or suicide is caused by depression or love sickness or um, all these all these things that we pretend that suicide is caused by, but suicide is actually caused by a bullet going through somebody's head. And so when we think about preventing suicide and we think about all these sort of like Freudian whys of how they got there, but we don't actually think about what's actually going to be on that death certificate, then we're really missing the mark. And I'm noticing now with Donna's Law that a lot of police departments are getting involved with advocating for the law because they're the ones that are really aware of how this problem is going down in society because first off, they have their own losses to suicide within their ranks. And then they're also the ones that are being called to either stop a suicide from occurring or cleaning up the aftermath of a suicide. And when, I mean, I know you like Stephen King, so I'm not going to be shy about being
I do
graphic.
like Stephen King. You were listening.
Yes, I am listening. And so like when when I heard that my mom shot herself in the head, I had this vision of this, I don't know, this like little tiny hole in the back of her head. And, maybe like a bloody bit of hair there or something. But that's actually like not what happens to the human body when this happens. Like the vessels of the flesh just like completely engorge, and these people become like horrific sights, and our police are having to witness that,
Right.
and um that is preventable, you know and I'm glad to see them going upstream on the problem to address it in this way. um yeah, so I am very optimistic about Donna's Law, and I hope that people that are in those states consider utilizing it. I hope that people who think it's a great idea and are right now disappointed in their state that they don't have access to this wonderful tool, consider going on donnaslaw.com, and there's a letter you can send to a representative. You can also contact me through there, and I will like co-author a letter with you, and I will not shame you for not knowing who your reps are. I will just like figure that out. And hopefully they will respond to us, and I will sit in a meeting with them, with my experts, and hopefully get a bill sponsored in their state. um, yeah, I wanted to talk about just like advocacy in general, because it's so similar from when, like, the work that I'm doing on a national level to advocate for people with, let's say, suicidality, um, and the be the voice for people who are dead or ashamed, or like, when I was doing an interview today with a newspaper in Maine, and they asked if I had family members, and I said that, like, if I they were writing about my family going to Maine and Donna's Law not passing, and then they asked, do you have siblings? And I said I have a brother, but I know that if I say my brother's name, that what will come up for the rest of his life is that his mother killed herself. That's going to be the top of Google.
Sure.
And that is a really rough thing to experience,
Oh, yeah.
like I'm famous for a lot of things, but the thing I'm famous the most for is that my mom shot herself. And the way that that impacts families, and they know that. And so it's like, once you step in the arena of um even being in the news, with your name and the word suicide and the story being put out there, that can very much like dominate someone's um reputation,
Yeah.
and precede them in their life. And that's um a lot to ask of somebody, to do that. And but I hope that people get excited about activism and just like smack shame in the face and like get out there.
Right? No, I mean, I agree as well. And I think that's why we connected well, just both wanting to be a better advocate for this community. I mean, and obviously you've been able to go above and beyond. I mean, I just do a fucking podcast, but it's still this is what we want to do. You have to start that advocacy, and you have to see through what that can look like for so many people who are ashamed, like you said, or don't want to speak up or have the ability to do so.
Yeah, I was thinking about how one of the values that this podcast could have would be to like really teach listeners how to self-advocate, and how that maps on um every kind of advocacy, because it's advocacy is all the same everywhere. It's the same stages, it's the same feelings. And I was thinking, I even looked up what advocacy like actually means, and it pretty much like means like to support something. And that can be a policy, that can be someone trying to get care. So it can mean all sorts of things. But the first step of advocacy, when I looked it up, was to affirm your value. And I was like blown away when I saw that as step one, because I was like, wow, yeah, so many people I know don't think they deserve what they want, and so
Yeah.
they don't advocate. And so it's so important to, um, whether you believe you deserve it or not, just accept that you do.
Right. No, but that's true, because a lot of the time when we do battle some of these mental illnesses, that changes that mind shift of you're not worthy for X, Y, and Z, but that's not true.
Yeah,
And even if you think it is, you still need to do something, because it's not. It's not true, but that's, one of the unfortunate things that these mental illnesses do end up taking away from you, is kind of like that self-worth.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that like I'm very good at just skipping past that, like just being like, yes, I matter. And I am blessed with like good self-esteem and confidence and I don't know, maybe a little entitlement.
Hey, you're doing things over there, so you deserve it. It
Good.
definitely is. You're doing great, and you're a wonderful advocate already for the community. So yes, you should feel that way 100%.
Yeah. You know, the thing that really hurts me the most, like the criticism that I get that kills me, is when someone says that I should be working on something bigger or better. Like a lot of
Oh
the
boy.
time I'm hearing about like that I should be working on, let's say, like women's reproductive health rights, you know. And that even like within the issues that I care about, to say that um, this doesn't have to be the only thing I care about. I can be an advocate for many things and many people, and I'm just going to get started on it. And then the next step of advocacy, no matter what level you're doing it at, is to assess your needs and goals. And I think this is so important because one of the things that I hear from people who, let's say, don't affirm their value and aren't assessing their goals is that when they're getting to their pitch, they're actually playing devil's advocate on themselves. Like, like hey, I know this will probably never work, but
Right?
you know what I mean?
You're like already talking yourself out of it at that point.
Yeah, and you're like not selling it. And you're not building like any urgency and people like you know, wanting to help you. So assessing your value and taking stock of what your needs are, what your goals are, and it can be small or big. Like it can be a specific symptom you want to address. It can be like with your child, I'm sure that you have like today goals and then you have like long-term goals of how you hope to be a parent, you know, how you hope
Oh,
to for
absolutely.
them for eternity. And so really clarifying like what you want for this advocacy. It doesn't have to be your only one. And then the next step is understanding your position. So, what what can you get? What is available to you? What are the options for a win? What can you get your hands on? Type of thing. And then now that you know like what you want and what the options that are out there, creating a plan for success to actually get those. Like what is like for me doing work nationally, I'm constantly restructuring and building structures of how we're going to create a plan for success, like and adding to it and prioritizing things, and it shifts and it pivots, but it's really always there for me. And I always like one of my prayers in my work is that I always know what to do next, that I don't need to know all the things, all the next steps forever, but like please let me know the next step.
Yeah, and I think that's easier said than done. I know that I have like trouble seeing like what's next. So it really, really takes some good motivation there as well.
Yeah. And I want people to know that I lose so much. Like Donna's Law has won in 3 states and it has lost way over 50 times across the nation, like as far as starting a progression that doesn't get there. And so the sometimes it takes quite a bit of persistence and, you know, pivoting and con- continuing to re-navigate and get your sights pointed on the right goal, even if it's, you know, moving and changing. And then the next step is fostering relationships with allies, and
Oh
this is
yeah,
this
it's
is what I'm
huge.
doing all the time, and it is so important. And so like for example, today with Donna's Law, we have a lot of support from organizations that are mental health organizations, and we have a lot of support from like gun violence prevention groups. But the missing sector for us is the police, the gun enthusiasts, the NRA would be nice for some help. um,
Right?
yeah. So I mean, so when I think about like when I think about politics, I think about making friends. That
Sure.
every step of bringing Donna's Law forward is about building relationships and diversifying it so that we're being supported in different ways. And I think that's so true, whether it's someone dealing with, let's say, like cancer or depression or whatever it is, that we need more than one type of care in our life. We need, um, you know, some people might need like I have a walking buddy, and that helps me so much with my mental health care. To have someone to walk with, I have a doctor, I have a family, I currently have a foster puppy that is giving me lots of oxytocin.
Ooh, what
um,
kind?
what's that?
What kind of dog?
It's like a little mutt. It's like brown and
Aw.
just looks like a dog.
Well, that's one way to explain it.
Yeah. Um, and so like those relationships are so important. Like I'm sure as a parent, you're fostering relationships with people that are caretaking for your child, and as a patient, it's good to be likable. Unfortunately,
Sometimes, yes, right? That is needed sometimes.
yeah, I mean it's unfortunate that being likable will change the respect and healthcare that one receives, but unfortunately it does matter, and the people caring for us are also human beings having an experience and having their own challenges, and I always feel that if I want someone to have compassion for what I'm talking about with Donna's Law, that I should first find compassion for them. And that has been a journey, like, for example, with like gun enthusiasts that want to shoot down my law.
I
To
see
figure
what you
out,
did there.
yeah, I got a whole list of them. Um, and so the like to me it's about like if I can figure out like why does this person feel like I'm wrong, why do they feel safer with a gun, like how can I find compassion for someone who lives with a mentality that they feel safer with a gun, and um like I can now like feel my heart break for someone that feels safer with a gun. I truly can. I am grateful I'm not, I don't feel safer with a gun under my pillow, or, sleep fine. I'm such a good sleeper. I can do it with my eyes closed. So I really don't need a gun.
You were over there writing these before this started. I know it
Oh yeah.
now.
Yeah, when my goal is always that like after people hear me talk about suicide, that they're like, that suicide lady was so fucking funny.
Hey, they'll remember you, so I mean you got the right idea down pat.
Yeah, and
We
and
love
as
funny shit.
yeah, and suicide is a really hard topic, and when I was first doing the work, I would be walking into someone's office and then like having a hysterical meltdown, like just like blowing snot and water out of my face and like unable to speak, and I mean, that was the way I advocated. And but that was really hard on people, and it didn't make them actually want to spend more time with me. And now I realize that also, now that I'm more healed and can do this work without losing it, that I I want to be likable. I want them to say like, "Oh yeah, let's call that suicide lady."
Oh
She's so
my
fun.
gosh. Right? She was a great time.
Yeah, yeah, and I just try and make it like cheerful and hopeful, and like that we're saving lives. That's like cool work, and it should make us like, even though it comes from a sad place, like I try and give the legislators a feeling of joy and enthusiasm in their work, and not just be like making them cry, because they do cry with me. And it,
Oh, I'm
you know,
sure.
like, I mean, sometimes it's cool to have like a congressperson like crying and hugging you, and I do kind of love that. But I also know that that takes like a lot of like spoons from people, and can be a lot of energy for them to give, that they could be giving, to just like moving this cause forward. So yeah. And then the next thing is to set boundaries accordingly, which is always the thing in life. And I think that one of the boundaries that I found in doing this work is to do less. And that's how I maintain my mental health, is I just do less. And I have a life strategy called Slazy, and I slay and I'm lazy, and that's how I do it.
Now that one is definitely one that needs to be on a t-shirt.
Yeah, yeah. So, not doing, if you do too much, then it's all going to crumble. And that's very true in doing mental health, like advocacy work for suicide prevention. Um, if like like the other day I was in Georgia, and like one of the things in my life is like I get nausea when I'm feeling anxious, but I always tell
Girl,
myself
welcome to
like,
the club.
I'm not really gonna puke on myself, like that's never happened. That's not gonna happen, and so I like talked myself into thinking that I wasn't gonna puke on myself. But then I actually did puke on myself.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, I really did. I puked right down the front of my dress in this like
Ugh.
conference room. And I had flown in that morning, like ran to the Capitol, testified. I've never done anything in my life like that. I've never like flown to a place, done business, and then flown out. Like that was really a lot. And so it made me realize that like, yeah, I will puke on myself.
It might happen.
Yeah. And so to know my physical boundaries like that, but actually it made me like very endearing to like everybody in the room. And I think that in the end it was probably the best thing I could have done. They were a lot of parents. I feel like when I'm around parents, if I puke on myself, they just like ignore it, and they just don't shame me at
Yeah, we're
all.
we're
So
used to it. It's like, yeah, meh,
yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah, they're
like,
like, "Oh,
here's a
it's just
napkin. Let's move
puke."
on.
Yeah. Um, so I definitely see how, like I hit my limit there, and will in the future like not push myself that hard as not to puke on my dress. Um, and then I'm going to move on to the next one, which is to be assertive and clear in your communication, which is so important. I find that people don't speak directly, especially women. I actually lived in South Korea for a little while, and when they would
Oh, wow.
translate Korean into English, I would hear the way that Korean was, and they would say something like this, like, um, if you wouldn't mind, if perhaps it's okay, and you would like to, perhaps you could come and do this thing, please,
It was a
thank you.
very not direct.
Yeah. And so now when I hear that type of talking, it's very obvious to me. And I've gone through different levels of being assertive, and I did go through a phase where I was like, I'm not going to say please, I'm not going to say thank you, I'm not going to act like a girl when I talk. But now I am very like kind in it, and but I am very very clear, and
Sure.
you don't have to be mean, and
No.
to be clear, and it can
Yep.
be very awkward, you know especially for people, let's say, with like mental illness, that have been like taught not to um like taught not to speak up, and
Oh, right.
that
Or
are
always
filled with,
apologizing or any of those things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say that like having clarity in your words is so important. And I, as I'm speaking, I'm thinking about a lot of people who are not good at self advocacy in my life, and how when they're communicating about their needs, they might even bring up a totally different topic. And like I had a friend recently have her bike stolen, and was discussing it with our apartment complex community, and instead of talking directly about her bike, generalized that crime was up, and almost like was trying to sell it to us that like crime was a thing, and I was like, wow, like she doesn't trust that we will um, feel compassion for her loss. um, so I think it's so important to really use clear language. Don't distract people. There's also this thing called like parenthetical talking, where I'll, I'll try and do it. Like you start talking and then you tell a story about something and then you like talk about it again. And it's very distracting and hard for the listener. And it's also very important to make sure there's a call to action. Like you're telling people things, you want them to listen, they listened. Now have they completed their like have they completed what you want them to do just by because they listened? And so it's so important to make really clear what you want from people. And when I'm doing the Donna's Law work, I'm always saying like, I'm asking for a meeting with you that's going to be virtual on Zoom, please. And then even telling them some times that are good for me. So being very direct, very clear is so important. Um, and then the last piece of uh, your path to being a great advocate is to prepare to experience resistance. And when I saw this as the last one today, it just like made me feel so affirmed about everything in my life. Because I work with so much resistance in Donna's Law because it involves controlling
Oh,
guns.
yeah.
And even though it's voluntary and doesn't interfere with the Second Amendment, but it still upsets people. And I literally have a list of what the opposition is going to say, and it's divided into categories. And I've had this list for about a month now, like actually on paper or digital paper. And prior to that, it was just kind of in my head. But now I'm able to be so prepared for that resistance and that opposition and exactly what they're going to say, and it's not going to sting, and I'm not going to like have mommy issues because they said something. And it's also, I'm literally forwarding that list to today I forwarded it to a reporter. I'm forwarding it to legislators so they know what the resistance is going to look like too. um, and so knowing what that's going to look like, um, being emotionally strong through it because you've kind of normalized it for yourself that, this could happen. And um, so I think, yeah, being prepared for resistance and then moving through it. Like a lot of the time in Donna's Law, I just like to envision this wall that I'm about to run through. And then as I like touch the wall, like as I get like, oh, I could just like smash my brains out because I'm running so hard at it, that it just is cardboard and just like falls over. And so I think that in advocacy, like, sometimes you have to trust that you are going to be able to take down the wall, that um you have
Yeah, bring a hammer. Let's go.
yeah, like you've put together like your package, your pitch, your friendships, your allies, the resistance, you've affirmed yourself, like you can go through this now. And then also for some people who can't, to bring in people who can be there to advocate for them. I have a friend that finds it really difficult, like he has a lot of anxiety when he's in the room with the doctor, and so he just pretty much like blanks on everything he wanted to discuss, and then whatever the doctor's saying, he's having a panic attack, so he's not even like hearing what the doctor's saying, and then after the appointment, nothing's really happening, and it was all very confusing and exhausting. So, sometimes we do need to bring people in. Like, I feel like that's one of the things I miss about my mom is that she would go to doctor's appointments with me, at whatever
Oh,
age.
sure.
So
Yeah,
having
we
those
need our
people,
people, definitely. That circle, everyone to lean on when it's getting rough. But yeah, you got to have that circle. And I talk about that before on other episodes, how important it is just in this community specifically, having those people who understand, even if they don't fully understand, just having those people you can talk to and turn to, just it goes so far. And even
yeah.
being that person to someone else is just tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking today, like as an artist, like all these things I've learned and gone through this process and advocating for my art selling. So these are great skills to have, I mean, they definitely will elevate your life if you can be working to address your needs and goals and feel empowered to reach out to people. And like when I first started doing this work, I felt like, oh my God, these senators and congress people, like they're pretty much like gods. And like I don't even know how to address them, And then like as I've gone through this work, like it's just become easier and more casual for me. And as I build those relationships, they become like really casual, like going from writing a cold email out to some representative and being like, dear representative so and so, and being like super formal, to just like passing texts and Facebook messages to my new friends that are legislators. So those building those relationships actually makes it even easier. And over time, the anxiety and the formalities and the separation of you and the people that you're trying to get stuff from becomes less and less.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's true. Like with all of this being said, I guess the biggest thing that comes to me being like the mental health guru is like what do you do to like stay on your path? Because I'm sure, I mean, you experienced tragedy. You really did. And it's a shame that you had to go through what you did. And obviously you saw something at the end of the tunnel. You came up with Donna's law. And it's
Mhm.
super impactful all around, and you're already seeing great success, which is huge. But from a mental health standpoint, what does that look like for you? And how have you been able to kind of shift that into, I guess, your work, if that makes any sense? Because it seems to me that it would have been like, you took this pain and you made something of it to help others, which
Mhm.
is incredible. It's a beautiful thing, and that's what a lot of great stories are told, where something happened unfortunately to someone else and then they turned it around for the good for others after that situation. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm just rambling. Does it make
No, no,
sense?
no. I feel, yeah. So
I'm
I
like looking at myself over here like, wait.
Well, I
Like,
guess like one message that I want, listeners to hear is that I'm not healed doing this work. I'm still fucked up and I'm still doing this work. So one does not have to be healed. One does not have to be sober. One does not
wait,
have
wait,
to
did you
be,
say you're still fucked up? I love
yeah,
that.
like,
I didn't even catch
like,
that till right now. I just like, wait, she said that? Cool. I say that shit too. Glad we're on the same page.
yeah. I mean, I don't want people to think that like, oh, I made this bill and now like everything's
Right?
fine.
I'm cured. I'm good now.
Yeah, and in the beginning of the work, I did want people to think that, and the media kept sculpting it like that, like this happy story, and that, I was sad and then I got success and now I'm happy. And I think detrimental to the cause because
Oh, sure.
nobody is really solid, you know?
Well, and we always, as a society, I feel like we always tend to correlate success with happiness, and that's not true. You know,
Right.
you can, underneath it all, you don't know behind closed doors what someone is going through. You see what they decide to show you, whether successful or not, that doesn't equate to my level of happiness and how I'm recovering from what I've gone through.
Yeah, yeah. And I also want to say that, like when this happened to me, when my mom, shot herself and died, it was obviously like horrifically traumatic. And I'm a parade producer, and so my whole work is about making people as happy, like the happiest day of their life. And to build these, super happy Mardi Gras parades and
I want to
um,
go.
I have to like sell this to people that it's going to be happy. They're going to have like a good time. It's
Best
not
day
going
of
to be
your
sad.
fucking life.
Yeah. And so, like, to be like, I mean, I was experiencing like CPTSD and anxiety and panic and trauma and,
Oh,
all the
all the
mess.
things, yeah.
And having to, at the same time, like, really fake it to like do my job, to not like lose my business. And then, but then what I found was the people in this work, like people don't get into suicide prevention because they like picked it out of a hat, you know?
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to laugh, but that's
Yeah,
true.
like,
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 it's
like,
not like we're playing Russian roulette and you got the short straw. Like,
right.
you didn't
Like,
pick that one.
yeah, like people,
There's usually a backstory.
yeah. And so the people that I would be meeting doing this work were people that really understood what I was going through. And then there were people who were bipolar, and like I've learned so much from like Fred, my partner on this work, and this other woman, Brian, that has bipolar, that works with me, just about like what that experience is. And I feel like I've been able to understand my mom better, learn more compassion and less fear about people with bipolar, um, uh, have these highly compassionate people around me all the time that are like, because it's called Donna's Law, it has kind of become this phenomenon that like moms named Donna are really moved by it and like come into my life and then like love me. And so like they're, I guess like it's such a unique tragedy, but the people who know it are so bonded to each other.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. It's
like,
actually crazy how much trauma and tragedy bond us, but
yeah. So being able to, like, I guess, be more authentic in that community, even though it was kind of all strangers, and has been amazing. And there's so many like cool people I've met. Like sometimes I think like, okay, like who am I going to have sex with at the in this? Like there's like the reporters, there's like the legislators, there's like, the NRA, like I
I
try
love
and just
it.
like now that's like my scene, like these are the people, they're educated, they're compassionate, they're usually like pretty like fit, I don't, to do legislative work, I guess.
Must be a requirement.
Yeah, so I try and just like lean into that community, and and they embrace me, they like what I'm doing, they appreciate, like there's a lot of people out there that do this work like in suicide prevention, but don't have the confidence to, let's say, like get on a podcast or something like that. And
All
so
right.
like to be able, like for them to hear the podcast I'm doing is super cool. Like they really appreciate that I like shame is such a big thing, and like I have shame. It's just like I'm not going to have this shame. Like I got like other shame, like
I
how
got
much like
shamier shit,
yeah, like
dude.
am I supposed to have like my mom's shame? Like what is this? Like this is America. We don't have generational shame.
Yeah.
So uh showing other people that like you don't have to be ashamed of it. Like it's not like one of the things that I found when I first started doing this was like I thought my family was a bad family, and that's why this happened, because we failed and we didn't love my mom right, and we didn't make the right choices or something. Like there's a feeling that in suicide prevention, like I've seen imagery that's like, okay, to prevent suicide, you form like a circle of hand holding people around the person, and that like cures it.
I mean,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a lot of and when you're a family where like you failed, then you're like, "Oh, I thought love was the answer," like that someone's always there. Well, that makes the people feel like they failed. And so I think that having the realization that like, no, my family didn't fail. Like my country failed us, like the lack of a Donna's Law regulation failed us. Like it wasn't us being a bad family,
Right.
and so
Oh,
I think
absolutely not.
it's really hard for also the like within a family when this happens, like I'm the only one in my family that wants to be public about this. And it is like I'm gonna bet no one in my family listens to this or anything I'm doing. And it actually like kind of it upsets them. Like it upsets them emotionally because my mom died and that's sad. But it's also very uncomfortable um to for them to see it put in the public eye, and like what is the value of it, and
Oh, so
like
you're the only one out of your family you'd say that has spoken up then, or like is
oh
being
yeah,
proactive with this? Wow,
oh yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's tough though too.
Yeah, so that makes it even more bonding, like to the people that want to do this work and are proud of me.
Right. Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
like there are like so many moms out there that are like really proud of me. So like, it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters some that like my family is weird about it, but I can also see that like if a family is choosing to do advocacy or work or not, if someone is like let's say like has kids and a husband, and they have a democracy of what happens in their household, chances are they're not going to be encouraged to do this work, because
Right.
why would anyone want their family member to invest their resources and time and life force into something sad, you know so it can even be, and it always brings it up again, and like it's hard for my family to feel like excited even when we do pass a law. Like there's still this sadness to it. Like I can't be like, oh yeah, we fucking won, you know what I mean?
Right. No, no,
like
I get it. Yeah.
like
It's like
there's
a
no
little bit of
like
a
high
double-edged sword
fives.
where there's like that sense of like this is super needed, but it still ties you back to like why you're doing this.
Yeah. So I mean, I want families out there to know that like it's not all like the whole family does this together, and you
Yeah, you're not
can,
all sitting around singing Kumbaya.
yeah, yeah. And I think it can also be weird, like, like you see people on TV that are like, a person dressed formal, and they have like a 8x10 of their family member that's dead, and they're at like a press conference. And, I mean, we've seen that a million times on the news, and it just kind of like blows past us. Like, yeah, I guess that's what some human beings do with their lives. And then, like, all of a sudden, like, being one of those people and like realizing like there's a world of those people that are um that want a better opportunity for people in the future, and those people, like, even though it's pretty weird to be standing there with like a dead person's photo on the news, like um it actually does work. Like that's why people are doing it. That when you have the ability to use your dead loved one as, let's say, like an organ donor to save lives, um, the legislators really do need these human stories. They need those people to like show someone that died, you know, like they need that, you know, they need that dead white woman on the news, like to make this stuff progress. And that can be something that, you know, one person in a family does. And it's just so important to like put a real humanity onto legislation or any advocacy work.
Oh, yeah. Yep. No, that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like a lot of the time when I'm talking to legislators or whoever in the news, like I always try and bring up about how my mom had 4 cats. Because I feel like people who love cats are just like, oh my God, what happened to these cats? Like these cats have no mother now. And I like just building compassion, you know,
Right.
like
Oh, cat
humanizing
people, they're
someone.
built different.
Yeah. Like if you look on like who follows me on Instagram, it's like a lot of cat people and I don't even have cats.
I love that. I'm actually a cat person as well, but
Oh, see?
currently don't have one, but I
Uh-huh.
did.
Yeah.
Yep, I love them.
Sometimes I wish that, you know, maybe if we can't, you know, get gun control because of losing children or vets or whoever, that maybe we can get it for the cats and, you know, all
Right.
these.
Right?
Yeah.
So I know, like, kind of swift. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak today. Kind of shifting gears. I know that you also have a mental health tool. That's your grief relief card deck. If you want to tell us
Yes.
a little bit more about that here.
Sure. So, when my mom died, I was in a relationship with a man that had autism, and our relationship was not based on um, him having compassion for my trauma. It was more like a fun relationship, and then when this trauma hit, he really did not know how to help me with it. And so he started writing these little cards to me and putting them in our house, and they would just be things he knew I liked. And so he just started making these cards for me and putting them together. And then I started writing into them as well. Like one of the first cards was pet alpacas because there was an alpaca farm near us and I just loved to go pet the alpacas. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, like stuff like that. And it was very personalized to me, you know, things in my life that I like. And so I was really impressed by how much it helped me that he had started this for me and then I continued having the deck. And a lot of the time, like I would not do anything in the deck, but I knew the deck was there and I knew that there was this whole stack of activities that I could do that would make me feel better, even if it was for a minute. And just knowing that there was that there were some answers was gave me hope and really helped me get through that time. And then last year I decided to make the deck public and I um adjusted it for, you know, the pandemic, so now all the activities you can do by yourself
Oh,
or with
nice. I
people.
like that.
And
Yeah, now we've changed it. You can go back outside and talk to your friends.
yeah, yeah.
Carry on.
And so the current deck, the first deck is 55 prompts of activities that people can do, and they're in various categories like creativity, entertainment, human connection, self care, um, nature. And then I'm also now working on other decks. Next week, I'm pitching a deck to the VA, the Veteran Affairs, that's in process, and it's a deck for first responders and military people,
Oh,
and
awesome.
all the themes are in red, white, and blue, and it hopefully can be a tool that is distributed to them, and I look forward to working with other groups. Like I imagine there being like a grief relief deck for kids and a nature based deck and
I
like I would
love
like to
that.
see like a grief relief New Orleans, like 50 things you can do here that
That would
make
be
you
super
happy.
cool.
And you know, horse lovers or
Don't
whatever it
forget the
is.
cats.
And then I also run workshops where I work with the group to create a deck as a group, but also individual decks. And I do sell the decks online. I'm sure you'll put the link, griefreliefcards.com. And also people can make their own decks. You can just grab some, note cards or anything really. I mean, you can even make a list of it. But it's just such a nice thing to have. All the things are no cost. They're all very simple, health forward ideas like take a walk, listen to water flowing, pet an animal, things like that.
I love it. Yeah. How did you,
And
so that just started, you had said with a previous boyfriend, with just
yes,
how he was able to kind of communicate with you a little bit better?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and I've been working with now the deck has been in hundreds of people's hands, and I'm really proud of how it resonates with like all ages and all kinds of different people. Like it's not about grief, it's not about um, sharing your feelings. Really, it's just about solutions and about feeling hopeful that maybe if I took a walk, I would feel better. This card says I would.
Right? If the card says it, it must be true.
Yeah.
No, I love it. That's an incredible idea. And you're just an amazing advocate all around, and everything that you've continued to do. I'm just astounded by your story. And I really, really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story with us a little bit more, letting us get to know you, and just really the impact that Donna's Law is having and going to continue to have. And for those of us who want to reach out to you and know a little bit more, where can we find you?
You can contact me through donnaslaw.com. I'm the only one on the other end of that website, so anything you put through there is going to come to me. You can Google me. I have all kinds of fun projects if you want to check out my art or any of that. Katrina Brees, put it in Google.
Oh,
Hit,
we're going to
hit the
Google you
adult
now.
settings and have fun.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Katrina. It's been really a blast speaking with you and learning more about this. Definitely something that's needed for the community, and we need more people to really put that foot forward and be an advocate like yourself. So I really appreciate it again, and just excited to see more to come from you.
Yeah, all back at you. I appreciate you so much, Jess.
Yes, thank you. And how we always like to end these guys. We're not going to push that panic button. We're going to figure it out. Thanks, Katrina.